Welcome, trainers, to the PokeSphere. We're your destination for in-depth Pokemon news, community discussion, and editorial content. We're passionate about this franchise, and we're here to share our insights and connect with fellow fans. So let's talk Champion. So in the last couple of days, we have been treated with an overview trailer of Champions and get a little bit more information about how exactly this game is going to run. There are also some questionable choices that were made, not entirely sure why, but we'll get into that later. It's the usual suspects of X, Chase, and SonRyu. First off, before we even get into any of this, how hyped are you guys about Champions overall? Like the idea behind it and some of the things that we already know about the fact that you can rent Pokemon, but you can't transfer them into the game system.
My guy, I have already picked out a bridge and I am scouting for 5 other friends and I'm going to paint a rock gold to offer whoever can defeat all of us in sequence. I was originally hyped, so we have to go back in the Wayback Machine and look at what the Pokemon Go trailer was originally, and I'm not talking about the discovery or the catching elements of the Pokemon Go, the battle, the hanging out in the social parks, or I mean for us older folks, hanging out at the bar, being able to do the Pokemon battles with the Pokemon that you traveled and grew up and hung out with. Like, I really have a reason to go and organize my Pokemon home now. I have a reason to go find some of the oldest Pokemon that I have in there that we do have nicknames for memorable playthroughs and bring them up, bring them to Champions, have them in my team that I could be proud of. Because now the stats don't matter. What I did with them in game doesn't matter. As long as they're the level, let's go, baby. I have my friends from generation.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. This sort of disconnect between the story parts of the games and the competitive aspect, and now having their own sort of separate platforms, if you want to call that, I think is a very nice touch. There are a couple of things that I have issue with. So my personal opinion is Champions should have been integrated into Home, and if you paid for the premium subscription of Home, you should have gotten access to like the paid features or whatever. It shouldn't be another thing that you have to pay absurd amounts of money for, or at least some things you shouldn't have to pay for. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say for now. Once we get into it, we'll start chatting about it a bit more.
So I don't really sing too much. I just have what's been drawn to cover. So I am looking forward to Pokemon Champion because it's from the next BGC format that people's gonna be using on their mobile and on the Switch, 1 and 2. Yeah, and with this format, it's gonna change everything because we have Mega Evolution. Mega Evolution or D-Max, I believe, right? I don't know about Z-Move, but having everything coming back and integrate into one game is really good. And can you tell how it goes?
Okay, well, I mean that's you brought up an interesting point, Ryu, about Champions being being the new competitive format. And that actually brings up an interesting question, because now we were discussing this in our Discord, and Chase brought up the fact that one of the things that seems to be an issue is that they're launching Pokemon Champions on the console before the mobile version is going to be rolled out. And so, I mean, I get the convenience of having the mobile app, rip, rare, and go at the same time as the console. But this always seems like par for the course, where Nintendo tends to roll something out and doesn't get everything tested all the way through, in my opinion. I think that it should have been, if this wasn't going to be ready for both console and phone, I think they should have actually held back on announcing that this was going to be taking over the championships this year. They could have pushed back till next year, make sure that everything was working rock solid, and drop everything all at once, because I don't know what the integration is going to be like between the mobile app and Home and the Switch. I don't know if you got to do some presetting and whatnot, and getting those out of the way ahead of time would have probably been a better idea, but that's just my take on it.
So that's also one big gripe I have with it, or with Champions, is I don't understand why they decided to lean not particularly heavy towards there being a mobile app, but significantly enough that, it got people excited. And initially there was no inclination or basically no communication in any sense that it would be a staggered rollout. So it would come to Switch first and then mobile later, which I think should have been the case, especially now that it seems like because obviously there's multiple worlds happening this year. I think there's 2 or 3 of them at different locations, and they seem to be pushing Champions in the direction of, okay, we want to have this ready so we can use Champions for Worlds. And imagine how much better it would have looked if they had the mobile version ready, so you're not carrying your Switch around. You've got your phone in your pocket and you can just whip it out, and they can actually practically show it off, show it working, whatever you want to say towards that on the world stage.
I like it, but they should implement mobile too. But I think the reason why they're doing this first, so that way people who don't have, for example, play on mobile, right? Example, play on the Switch 1 and 2, because there's a lot of people on it, and I think it's going to draw a lot of attention, and people who just VGC and stuff. This is really gonna become really popular real quick, I can imagine. And then they're gonna have a lot of tournament too, just like any PVC they've done over the years. And this would kindly remind me of Pokemon Unite, because you can play that on your mobile phone and on the Switch 1 or 2, and they're cross-play compatible, which is perfect. And I imagine Pokemon Champions is doing the same thing too as well. I think they're trying to get more attraction to the console first before they do mobile, which is why I think they're they're launching down the mobile and Switch at the same time. So
Pokemon Champions should have been delayed. Point blank, period. But the thing that I do understand about why this is happening is that rolling it out on the Switch 2, where most of your competitive fans are already there, your competitive people that are going to be going to Worlds were already going to be bringing their Switches anyways. Nobody's prepared to break away from that in the 3-4 months before they have to get serious about what's going on in that sense. I think they definitely rush making that announcement that it's going to be on this new platform that's not even out. I think they should have given at least an entire year of this platform being out before using it on Worlds. And it's not fair for curious competitive players, especially people that tend to maybe not make a living but do count on this for their survivability or their life in some sense. But like I kind of hinted, this is kind of a beta test. This is to see how well it's going to bite with, and they're trying to hit the biggest chunk of the demographic right away. It not being on a mobile might be because the vast difference of between iOS, Android, and then how it's going to perform on different devices that people have might be more testing and more bug fixes than we might actually fully understand. That being said, and a counterpoint to that in the notes that I have here is that Pokemon Go from any device, any iOS or Android, still integrates into the Switch 2 for you to connect to Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon Go, or Pokemon Home rather. So why is this such a difficult thing to figure out? Like I think Draco mentioned, one of the things that might be worked on is that getting the mobile and the Switches to interact on that cross-platform sort of situation. Otherwise, like the only other thing that I wanted to kind of swing a bat at in terms of the idea is something that Chase mentioned about why Champions wasn't just integrated into Home, and I want to just take and run with that, is then why wasn't it created into a hub game where that was basically Pokemon Stadium, and then we downloaded regional DLCs, etc. And they're going an opposite route. Instead of trying to make one thing that you would just buy and stack on that going to meet every sort of fan's needs, they're trying to break things up into the different types of fans and niches they have. Now, if you don't really care about the Pokemon stories and the RPG element, just focus on your champions and only pay for that. You will not even need to play a Pokemon core game anymore in order to be a VG champion. As long as you have Pokemon Go, which will help get you all these Pokemon, you can trade for them via online, but that always feels like a caveat. Otherwise, you can recruit them in game. Like, this is going to break the whole fan base into the niche pockets and allow fans to only pay for what they want out of the Pokemon franchise instead of having to get everything all at once all the time. Holy cow, that was a lot of notes.
So so I just want to add to that real quick. So I don't know if you guys remember, but initially, just before Pokemon Home was going to get launched, they mentioned it was going to be a constant development thing, and they were going to add new features. And from what I understood, they would add like mini games or additional features, so it wasn't just a Pokemon Bank 2.0. And I think adding champions to Pokemon Home would have been a great idea, because from what I understand, or what I've seen or watched and read so far, is again, you have, I can't remember how much box space it is, but for argument's sake, we'll just say 30. So if you only have space for 30 Pokemon, that's what, 5 teams? And after that, you have to pay for more space if you don't have Pokemon Home. And Pokemon Home Premium, might I add, because I think base Pokemon Home also only gives you 1 box. So it seems, or to me it's seeming like a little bit of a cash grab more than anything, because like your serious VGC competitors will obviously pay the prices to get access to all the features, so they're not hindered in any way. And realistically, you shouldn't have to pay for basic features like box space. So I'm not saying give us 1,000 boxes so we can build 1,000,001 team. And yes, I know the math doesn't math, but this is just an exaggeration. So small things like that. And then it goes back to one of the disclaimers on Pokemon Champions is that it's free to start. So I just wonder what other little costs are going to creep up. So you might have to pay actual money to get certain items. And if that's the case, they would have essentially killed the game before it even has a chance to develop into what they hope it would.
You know, that actually brings up a really good question, because obviously they need to make money on this thing. So what the monetization is going to be, because they did, like you said, it's free to start. Okay, that's great. But are we going to be paying a monthly stipend to just access the things that are in this game? Are they going to give you an option to buy those victory points? Like, I know originally they said you cannot directly buy victory points, but that just means that there's some indirect way of earning them or getting them. And I'm just kind of curious, because like I play Marvel Snap, and in Marvel Snap, you cannot directly purchase any card in the game. However, there's methods of you spending money that would allow you to pick up currency in the game that would then allow you to start adding to your collection very quickly. It's not a direct one-to-one, but it's still there. It can still happen. And so, you know, it's one of those things where I kind of wanted to, like, I haven't seen anything personally, so like, but you know, we're let's jump into this video. Let's take a look at what they've offered us. I mean, I love the fact that they're doing the stadium setting. I love the fact that they're pushing that whole battle stadium theme all the way. This isn't just, hey, you're in an open field. No, you're in a stadium. You're in it to win it.
My God, these animations are absolutely gorgeous. Like, that is one of the biggest things that I noticed. If this is actually what it looked like, even if it's on my phone or Switch, regardless, it still looks very entertaining, very action-packed. Like, this might actually hold my attention, where usually turn-based battles sort of can lead me into multitasking.
So, of course, you know, we discussed a little bit about how to obtain Pokemon. Either you transfer them in, or you can, you know, rent one in. Like, there seems to be like a little mini game where you can recruit once per day, and they'll just kind of hand you something.
All right, so the way that I've been filled in from watching some other videos, shout out to like Wolfie, Austin John Plays, is what it is. You'll get, I think it's 10 or 12 random Pokemon, and then you get to choose one of them. Yes, they can be shiny. And then you get to use those for, I believe, 7 days for what, you know, that whatever cost or whatever. And then I think there might be a way for you to recruit it long term. But any Pokemon that you recruit in Pokemon Champions is really just a borrowed thing. It cannot be sent to home. You don't own it. You just get to use it for those battles in Champions.
I mean, it's still looking pretty static as far as the animations go. Like, they're standing there taking the hit. We're back to old school battle, how people feel about the active battle of PLZA versus the classic style of turn-based with the Generation 9 and before?
That actually sounds like a video topic that our fans want to see. We should get some of the guys from Savorian Skies, like Anthili, and I know for sure that they're into the competitive scene a little bit more than our circle, and that would be a great conversation to have with them about if the active battle style versus the static, would actually work for a competitive future.
Right.
But anyways, on topic here, we all knew this was going to be the classic turn-based. This is what they're trying to take the old school competitive and put it into here so that they can be more imaginative with core games without having to break balance point.
True. Although I do like that the background has some kind of animation. It's not static while you're sitting there choosing. It does make you feel like you're in one of those anything that has this any kind of like sports event that you would normally go to. So I'm glad that they paid a little attention to just those things. I don't know, like that's just me. What do you guys think? Like just the little touches, like even here you can, if you watch, like, so you see the background, the laser lights go in, right? But then when they go to the versus screen where you've got your two players coming in, look at them, they're moving. They're not static in that screen, even though they were in it for just like a couple of seconds. They're moving, and I think that brings a little bit more life into this game. Like, what do you guys think?
I mean, I've already applauded the animation and applauded the animation. I mean, I think it looks really cool. There's kind of a nostalgic feel to some of the way that they do those. Like you said, there's static images that are being animated rapidly and then slowly until the screen fades away, which gives them a lot of life. It's one of the tricks that, we've used some of our animation projects. So it is interesting the way that they do that, because it brings a nostalgic feel while it still adds that I need this constant stimulation of modern media. I really think it reminds me of being in a casino, or like you said, a sporting event. You ever play Rocket League? It gives me that same sort of vibe of that. I don't know if you've ever gotten into the little Rocket League thing, but what do you?
Oh yeah, I played a little bit of Rocket League back then, and it seems pretty cool game. Like if you have people play that, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Doesn't it have that like arena height vibe of a Rocket League just the same? That's what it reminds me of.
Well, it's more like to me, it's more like a sword and shield where people get hyped when you die a bunch of Pokemon and stuff. That's what reminds me of the stadium bar.
Oh, that is a good one. Yeah, I kind of always forgot about that little subtle element in Sword and Shield, the way that they made it sports. I wish they proliferated that a lot more. What do you think about the anime? Do you like the way that it keeps active the entire time, or would you like it a little bit more toned down?
No, I actually like this animation where the character, your trainer move and the Pokemon in each standing still do nothing, right? Like it's an actual battle, like how you would play in the actual Pokemon game, right? Or like similar to a TV show, Pokemon TV show. Yeah, so which is very cool.
Yeah, everything from the animation to the art style to the motifs that they went, it all looked really good. Those subtle animations actually remind me a little bit of Street Fighter and how sort of dynamic it was. I think it was Street Fighter. Might have been one of the fighting games. And I really like that because I feel like it gives it a lot of personality and actually makes you feel like you're a part of it. Like it's actually you battling and not just an avatar on the screen. And I think that's something that needs to be really commended is how immersive the trailers themselves.
At least it looks like they did take some time with the animation, so it doesn't look like they do a move and then all of a sudden your character reacts. You can see where things connect. But what I think is going to blow my mind most off for this is new mega moves like Dragon Eyes and Mega Soul. Mega Soul not only affects Meganium with moves like Solar Beam, but it also affects things like Weather Ball.
Oh, interesting.
And for Dragon Eyes is basically what all of the other elate moves, like Pixelate, Aerialate, all those moves, it does the same thing, except this time it does it for dragon typing, so it turns all normal attacks into dragon attacks.
Oh, sweet.
That's actually not bad. That is so abusable if you know how to do it right.
Oh.
And honestly, like it makes me wonder what they have in store. Like, what are they planning?
I mean, when they revealed those abilities, I mean, Eyes and Mold Breaker is meh, but Mega Soul is an interesting one because they're kind of taking elements of Sunny Day and just, it's not putting Sunny Day out there, but it's one-sided benefits as if Sunny Day was out. So, I mean, I'm just excited as you are, Draco, about what they're going to be cooking for this new generation.
Mega Soul is just, it's such a good idea for an ability. I really want to see what other new abilities they come up for the other Megas.
There was something about the what Mega Fennekin? No, what is the final evolution of that? Names. Word
Delphox.
Delphox. Thank you, my wonderful PokeSphere cohorts. Mega Delphox getting Levitate. And how this is actually detrimental to one of the main VGC strategies of Delphox as it stands, because not being grounded eliminates it from getting the bonus of psychic terrain. Therefore, it eliminates the doubling power on expanded force. So this could be a double-edged sword. We might be excited about things like Mega Soul. Well, they're going to be sneaking a lot of things like levitating Delphoxes.
So there are some abilities that, well, I don't know if there are abilities, but I know there are some moves that'll ground your Pokemon and actually, I don't know if it stops Levitate from working, but Delphox would, for example, still gain the psychic terrain benefits if that move is used on them. Sort of like using Beat Up on a Pokemon with a certain ability. I can't remember what the ability is, but it boosts attack.
From the old generations, I would consider Dragon the stronger normal because the way that it would only be weak against itself, you know.
Well, Ice type.
No.
The ability I was referring to is Justified. So if it's hit by a Dark type move, it boosts attack, and one of the strategies you'd often see is Pokemon in slot 1 would hit Pokemon in slot 2 with Beat Up because it's a relatively low power Dark type move, and then it'll take little damage but gain a significant boost. So that was just talking to how some moves can ground Pokemon, and like Delphox would get the benefits of psychic terrain if a move like that was used on them.
Yeah, there's a gravity, and then there's a knockdown. I think it is another one that will, for one turn, remove any flying or levitate. It'll just negate it, and I believe there's an item that does the same thing. If you can trick it onto a Pokemon with levitate or flying type, they'll just automatically start taking the damage. But I could be wrong on that last one, so don't quote me.
It's Iron Ball or something like that. There's something like that.
Yeah, I thought so. But I like the fact that you have the option now. They're still keeping the option of single battles as well as casuals. I want to know if there's a way of spectating, because I think that's been the biggest gripe I've had with competitive or like online stuff. Is I'm not as big into competitive as some of our other friends. However, I don't mind sitting and watching and spectating, because it just feels really bad to share your screen and then have other people seeing what you're doing and then screen snipe effectively. Having a spectator mode allows you to invite your friends over without them being able to see what's going on your side of the field.
I think they rely heavily on like content creators, a stream, let's plays, stuff like that to give that spectator experience and let that be its own sector instead of building that into the game. I think, in fact, a lot of content creators in the gaming sector, they'd be obsessively upset over the idea of games integrating a let's play-ish feature and taking that out of the streaming media platform.
Excuse me. Well, my shtick is the fact that you're talking about a game that is effectively a competition between two teams or two individuals. Like any sports thing, you would want to be able to spectate. The problem I'm having is if I'm battling you, the only way anybody's ever going to be able to see anything as of right now is if we're both sharing screen. But when we're sharing screen, we can look at each other and what we're about to do and then counter against that. And yes, there should always be a level of honesty where you would expect that your opponent wouldn't do that. However, not everyone thinks that way, and so they'll go for any advantage. Whereas if they had a built-in spectator mode, you get to see the battle, but you don't get to see the inputs.
Meanwhile, I'm the one that secretly gave Draco a pair of mirror glasses so that I could see his phone and screen snipe him in spite of all this.
Now, I do like the fact that we, here on the online competitions, you can change your region. You can even enter the competition ID. So this makes it feel like you can go into, a totally different region. If you've got the competition ID number, you can also enter via that way. And it kind of lets you, at the very least, take part of other competitions that you normally would not have been able to, which that in itself is definitely a bonus because let's face it, right now things are expensive and they're only getting worse. So flying out to these locations can be absolutely, just devastating to somebody who's trying to climb the ladder. So them setting up something that looks like you can just jump in via Wi-Fi from your home makes things so much more convenient. I think if this plays out the way it looks like it will, I have to applaud Nintendo and Game Freak for the forethought of this.
Yeah, if it does work like that, that would be amazing. So I'll just speak from my perspective a little bit here. So where I live, it's very difficult if you want to get into like the Worlds track and try and get to compete at Worlds. Just because I live in a region where Pokemon isn't as popular as other places, so there isn't really a system to help climb that ladder to get to Worlds, or to qualify for Worlds, should I say rather. So there are some guidelines or sort of like a rough roadmap of how you'd go about doing that, but oftentimes it doesn't actually work. So this could be a huge advantage to people in regions that experience similar difficulty when it comes to a competitive aspects of online battling.
So, like how you mentioned, I do like how you can get integrated into another region, right, to like compete, which is very cool. And I like that idea. As long as for you on the paper to do it right, and like to compete in another region, we can do it like how we normally do, and from where we are.
I also do like it seems that you can create your own competition, which is nice.
So that's what I was wondering is, much like Pokemon Go became a very, very, very local sort of thing in terms of battling and stuff like that. Unless you, I was wondering, is this going to be always a global, anywhere kind of like the Switch is? If I have an internet connection or a phone connection and I have the proper code, friend ID, etc., I can battle anyone at any time, anywhere. Like I could be battling Chase right now, champion at a release that nobody knows about during this very recording.
You don't want the smoke, let me tell you that.
Hey, I will ask Lumi about my Goldango. Lumi about.
Oh, I hear Rumble exclusive Pokemon battles on that channel.
I will dust my Switch off just for that.
Dude, no, here, like this whole segment could probably be dropped or put for a Rumble exclusive thing, but the idea of even if we get Trunks, PokeSphere versus the Vorian Skies Pokemon Champions release tournament.
That would be amazing.
You know what? I'll run it past Unsealy then, and let's see if we can get something going, because I'm pretty sure, Hayes needs to get some practice in, because I know Hayes is gunning for Worlds as well. Hayes has been doing amazing.
I mean, if you put in the chat, I'll let the Rumble people kind of get an idea of it. The Midwest Regionals is actually, I think, sometime in October. At least last year it was in October. Expecting to be about that again. If things work out with this might be the push that I need to actually participate instead of just being a tourist over there.
All right, so, as we move along into this video, they talk about the victory points earned, and it looks like some kind of a ticket of some sort, or points for the ranking system. It lets you, you can edit your team, you can continue battling after every round, and it looks like once you score enough points, you move into the next rank, which is great. It looks like they turn around and they do 200 points on tier 1. So if we cut back to one of the other screens to recruit a Pokemon, I think it was 2,000 points, or to purchase something, which we'll see in a minute, it's about 2,000 points. So every 10 battles, if you earn 200 for whether you win or lose, then you could eventually clean up with purchasing all the necessary items. But if you don't get the full amount per battle, then it gets tricky. But then of course, we start getting into the training aspect, which is going to be where you're going to start spending a lot of your BP. So looks like they have the the move tutor, which any move that they can learn, they will. You change their natures to align better to the build that you're going for. You can even change their abilities, and it looks like for the moves, it's 250 victory points. For the nature, it's 500, as well as the ability for 500. So on the screen, you're changing one move, you're changing the ability, you're changing the nature, and it's going to run you 1,250 victory points, which is, 12 battles? Leaves you some change.
My guy just got a lot of words in math to say the pay-to-win PK Hex feature.
Also, 5 victory points per stat point for your Pokemon, which caps out at 66.
And we're seeing right here, you get total stat points. So 66 stat points that you can allocate across all these stats. If you look at the speed is 32, the attack is 32, and then the other one's 2, that's actually equaling out to be the 66. So you can get 66 extra stat points through this PK Hex EV feature.
So effectively, you have 66 points you can divvy up between all 6 stats, and at 5 points a stat point. So that's good to know. Which also brings me to something I did want to address before we continue forward. I know that's been a hot button topic with a lot of people who are upset because their IVs are now all going to be capped out at 32. And I know a lot of people were really not thrilled with the fact that they wanted 0 speed for Trick Room purposes, or for some abilities and moves that work better when you're slower than your opponent, like Gyro Ball, for example.
No, hold on. Let's just say the Trick Room goes a lot more complicated than the way that you just sort of move past that. Because not only do you want low for Trick Room, but there's also Trick Room ties, that there's a lot of skill demonstration that takes place in tweaking that low end of speed by 1 or 2. Also, if you don't want to use Trick Room, that high end, manipulating speed stat on IVs is a huge skill expression in terms of, like, I know I'm going to be facing this, and I don't need to put another point in speed because I already know for a fact that I can outspeed any threats. Like that is now taken away with the IVs and left only into this new, I guess, what you'd call the effort value system.
Well, I mean, it's not so much the fact that you still can't run those strategies. It just basically means that the nuanced,
For whatever a best IV, how many stat points that actually adds and what that percentage to a max stat point is, to see what we're actually losing with the collapse of the IV system and the way that it's being rolled into this new EVs to make sure you still get nuances in terms of the skill expressions. And that was a lot of detail to explain things. I'm guessing that's mostly for our audience there.
well, I mean, it looks like you're talking about a difference of 15 points across the board. The thing is that because everyone is going to be operating on max IVs effectively, it's as if everybody was still at 0 IVs. It doesn't matter because your baseline is still going to be the same no matter what. So even if you're going up against a Pokemon that usually has a higher speed, and you're trying to drop the speed, I mean, your guys are still starting off at the same point, and most likely they're going to capitalize on their Pokemon speed by cranking that up, whereas you just don't touch it, you just totally ignore it, as you normally would anyway. However, I do understand that being able to go up against something that is 0 versus 32, those 15 points can make a difference. It can change a slightly faster Pokemon into a slow enough Pokemon to capitalize on your strategy.
Yeah, it moves some options to niche strategies that require certain Pokemon to have that ability to lower or increase those specific stats by that varying amount, by those 15 little points, in order to be a viable option.
Yeah, and I get that.
So the other thing that, since we're going to talk about quote-unquote remove content, have you noticed a pattern with all the Pokemon that they've been showing us in this trailer thus far? Where's all of our cute little babies? Where's our non-fully evolved Pokemon? Why can't I Evolite?
I mean, I would expect to see something along those lines of bringing in the unevolved and using the Eviolite.
Eviolite's for cowards, that's why.
You're just mad you can't get past my Dusclops.
Clefairy would like a word with you, sir.
Brother, I would. My Farigiraf would destroy your Dusclops.
Notice how he ignored the Clefairy. I mean, it looks like you'll be also able to use your VP for Megastones, held items, all kinds of clothing and accessories, poses, and battle styles. That's funny. Even unlocking battle songs, which is kind of cool.
But Draco,
Yeah.
those mega stones are going to be essential for any competitor. At 2,000
course.
VP top, and how much did you say you get per battle at the most? How many battles are we have to do in order to get all the mega stones?
Because I don't know how many were introduced in PLZA. Yeah, it's going to be a grindhouse. It is going to be a grindhouse. But if they're going to pivot everyone who is wanting to jump into competitive, the grind isn't going to be as bad because you're still going to need to be battling to go through the ranks. So you will eventually have what you need, and you're going to be hyper focusing on the mega stones you want anyway. Because, well, this brings a question of the fact that you can Dynamax and you can, what's the other one? You can terrestrialize, but Mega Evolution is the one that requires you to buy something.
I was just going to say that we know of so far, because of course we haven't seen everything just yet. So maybe we have to purchase the Mega Band, or in order to Dynamax a Pokemon, we have to buy Max Mushrooms and give them a Max Mushroom in some capacity.
Maybe.
So what I've seen so far is that megas are only available currently, and to digress to the not fully evolved Pokemon situation, they have came out and said that they're going to be introducing not fully evolved Pokemon into the game at a later date. They're basically getting the bare bones structure of what they need to do Champions for Worlds this year. It should have been.
You guys were right, because I'm looking at it here, the Omni Ring. And it's like, you need it for Mega Evolution. Other special features may be added to the Omni Ring in the future, but you clearly see Mega and Z moves.
I'm so happy we'll be able to use Z-Moves again, because I feel like Z-Moves was such an underrated gimmick.
No, Zimu, yes.
I can take or leave it.
Yeah, I think Z moves was actually one of the worst mechanics. But me and Chase have to stay at odds so that we keep this entertaining.
Blasphemy.
Save it for the Rumble. Save it for the Rumble.
No, we're up to take out Thivorian Skies.
I'm about to jump on a plane and rumble with X right now.
Okay, so they're saying there's about like 71, 72 total mega stones for ZA. Looking at it, so
Yeah, so that's pretty insane.
I wonder if they'll include all the Megastones.
yes, I think you will.
Yeah, they
I mean, some Megas are more viable than others.
The competitive mindset is that you won't actually need all of them unless the meta shifts that dramatically between regulation seasons. But at the same time, that gets pricey, especially if you're not pricey, that gets grindy, and we'll talk about it getting pricey in a second. It gets really grindy just looking into getting all those for a casual player, even the ones that you want. Charizard has 2 different stones, but on that, we actually start out with VP and stuff like that is rewarded through the battle pass situation. So as much as they said you can't get directly, there are things that you kind of just get, or allow you to access things that you would normally have to spend that on.
I suppose if it isn't too intensive on data, it might not, or mobile data, it might not seem as grindy as what you think it is. Because if you're like in an Uber or on the bus or on the train commuting to and from work, let's say a battle's 20 minutes and it takes you 20 minutes to get wherever you're going, that's already at least two battles a day, and that's just to fill your time so you're not looking awkwardly at strangers.
I have to admit one thing though. I was watching this and I had to stop and I rewound it a few times. Here's the battle between a couple of Pokemon, and one of them is the you get to see Alolan Ninetales casting Aura Veil, which looks absolutely gorgeous. But then you've got Torkoal, and if you watch Torkoal, you can see the ground around it starting to crack as it's heating up. The flame comes out and you see like a splash of lava, and that's an insane level of detail for just a move. And the physics on it are pretty solid.
Yeah, it looks really good.
And then of course, you've got Mega Heracross about to punch this thing. So I've got to admit that some of the animation work that they've done I am impressed with. It just doesn't look like they applied it all the way around.
What I will say from what we've seen, what I really like is how simple the interface is. Because if you look at something like Pokemon Unite, that user interface is like all over the place, and there's 101 different buttons. They all do 1,000,001 thing. And personally, as someone with ADHD, I get very overwhelmed by all the sparkly shiny buttons, and I want to press them all. So now I must really commend what looks like so far a very simple and user-friendly interface.
Yeah, until it gets to your wallet, like we can see right now on screen. The teammate tickets and the training tickets are what I was saying, where you don't actually get victory points, but you're getting a means of doing the things that you would have been spending your victory points on otherwise.
Oh yeah, no, my wallet is definitely gonna cry. I had to stop playing TCG Pocket because when it came out, by the time I stopped, I think I spent the equivalent of like 3 months.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it nickels and dimes you too.
Yeah, that's why I've made it a hard line, because
I don't generally spend money on video games. Like, there's very few that I will. So like Pokemon Unite, I've bought a battle pass every now and then. Marvel Rivals, I probably spend the most amount of money on because that's just battle passes every season. So I was shocked when my accountant phoned me and they asked what I was spending so much money on, and I was like, wait, how much money have I spent? And then when he told me, I almost had a heart attack because I didn't realize that I'd spent that amount of money.
yeah, it's wild how it's crazy how quick. I don't think we have an up price tag on the battle pass.
There were, I think, Austin John. I remember one content creator in a video mentioned it is like $8 or something for one of them, and then there's another level that was like 12, I think. But don't directly quote me on that. That's just like a ballpark USD value.
I think it's gonna be like $20. The cheaper version, right? It's gonna be $10 to $20. Normally it's like 10, 20, and then
Yeah, that's what Marvel Rivals does. For $10 for the month, you get the one card, and then if you pay $20, you get a second card followed up by it. I'm glad to say that I think I've only spent like $50 on that game in the last 3 years. But I'm also actively still playing the game, and I've been collecting most of the cards anyway. So, but that pretty much brings us to the end of this. Honestly, like it's still too soon for me, even though the version for Switch is going to be dropping in just over a week and a half by the, during the time of recording. But I'm curious to see how they're going to go, what the price tags are going to be, and how easy it is to get into this game, and how quickly you're going to get locked out of certain things unless you pay. So, I mean, only time will tell for me.
Yeah, one little probably the good news that can, make sure that you're never locked out of the PokeSphere by hitting the like, subscribe. You can make sure you get that premium battle pass by the comments down below, letting us know how far you're going to get into this Pokemon Champions thing. Are we going to be battling you someday across the PokeSphere? We'll see.
I think even though I have some, and probably premature reservation about it, I will still give it like a good shot when it does come out on the Switch. Maybe pay for a battle pass and get the full experience to see if it is all that they promised it would be. And it does look really good, and it seems that when the Pokemon Company focuses on one particular aspect of their IP, they always seem to nail it. So I do have some high hopes despite the reservation. So I'm excited to see what it actually turns out to be. But also, if it does turn out to be a major cash grab and they steal my credit card information, I wouldn't be surprised.
They don't need to steal it. You're going to give it to them willingly.
Well, they already have it. So, I might as well send them a picture of my ID.
Thank you, Google Analytics.
All right, and with that brings it to a close. What are your thoughts about Pokemon Champions? Are you hyped? What Pokemon teams are you going to be bringing in? Let us know down below.
I'll see you on another bridge.
I will be inviting everyone to watch my beatdown of X.
Yeah, take that, former Twitter.
And as always,
we'll see you in the next video.